suggestions. Also, we got SCORE, we got other businesses that you can consult with. I always tell you, I feel you need to expect the best but plan for the worst. I mean, you do have some rainy day funds, particularly if you're in kind of an industry that's cyclical, where maybe the holiday season you make 60% of your money. Well, when you make that 60%, you better be sure you've done the forecast and the budgeting so you can survive the rest of the year. So I say, being an entrepreneur, your own business, you really need to be optimistic. I had a brother that got into his own business, and all he could see were the problems coming up. I mean, so he couldn't sleep at night. I mean, he was having all kinds of problems. He had to actually go work for somebody else because he couldn't deal with the problems. He even worried about problems he didn't have, but that might come up. So,
He's thinking too much.
yeah. We talked about your competition, knowing your competition. As I say, if you ever want to sell your business, they're the best people to sell it to. You need to know and understand the keys to your business. If it's cyclical, you need to understand that. You need to have some idea of when the monies are coming in so you can cover them. You always try to hire good people, but in a lot of cases, some cases you decide to go with a cheaper person just because they're cheaper, but good people are worth their weight in gold. I'll tell you, it's really hard to find good people. I mean, my experience is often you go through 2 or 3 before you get to one, sometimes 4 before you get to someone that you really are happy with. Then you got to treat them right so they'll stay. And use stronger vendors that are going to be around and not trying to cut corners. And I also suggest you run it as a business, not as a hobby, because some people run even some pretty good sized businesses as a hobby and they don't plan, they don't organize, and they usually don't survive. More suggestions. If you do have a crisis, I suggest you develop a crisis plan, a written crisis plan. It's usually a 60, 90.
Willis, can I interrupt for 1 second? For those of you that are taking pictures, we will provide a copy of the presentation material to everybody who attended. Okay? You'll get an email with it. Okay, just so you know.
So if you do get in one of these crisis situations, you put together a true crisis plan. Let's say maybe 6 months. You may and probably should explain it to your employees what you're doing. If you're letting employees go, explain why. A lot of times you let the poorest employees go, the other employees know it. In some cases they wonder why you kept them as long as you did, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. And a written crisis plan, you work it, you hope that you can survive with the ugly. You hope you survive long enough, keep the business going, so when things turn around, you can proceed on. You do need good tax, legal, financial support. I suggest you don't hire the cheapest you can find. Ideally, you find someone that's got experience in your industry.
Right here.
And there are people, hiring an attorney or
One of the things I recommend to my clients for legal services, because most business owners don't have a business attorney, and they certainly don't have them review all the contracts that we have to sign as business owners. There are services that are membership services where you pay a set amount every month, and it's like $35 for a business. And you have an attorney on call, and you can talk to them on the phone for as long as you want. That is worth its weight in gold for 80 or 90% of the things that you're dealing with. And that way you'll use them more frequently and really get somebody who is your advocate to review. Literally every contract that you receive is written in the other guy's point of view. And so that's a really good way of going with that.
Yeah, I didn't have that available.
No.
All my contracts I paid to have it reviewed.
That was one of the first things that when I heard about it, I went, I'm there.
That's very good.
Just as a parenthesis about the legal assistance, this is very good information. what about non-competing agreements?
Yep.
Yeah, they're non-compete agreements, absolutely not. In California, you can't have them. You cannot have them in California. Some states, if you have non-competes, they need to be approved legally, because states are different. I have been sued because of non-compete agreements, so I'm very familiar with them.
What happened here in Florida then?
Pardon?
Florida.
The employee has them, but if you hire the employee,
Well, again.
you're responsible.
You hire another company to do the work, not as a person, but as a company, as an entity. But you want them to be, not to still do design, if you will.
Yeah.
You want them to complete is that okay?
Got out of control.
Get an NDA.
Subway making a
Some
non-compete
cases,
agreement with
it's
Jason's
really-
Sandwich.
It's really totally,
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, they say,
That's where having an attorney on the other side of the phone, pick up the phone and say, I have this question.
Good
How
service.
does that work in Florida?
and even if you do all that, anybody can sue anybody for anything. I mean, it is absolutely
Our litigious society.
unbelievable. And, I got attorney friends, and I've spent a lot of money with attorneys. And, the attorneys get together and they talk and they do various things, and you may or may not be with them. And then they send you a bill, and you have not real sure, where all those hours went. And then they also they can have paralegals do stuff, or they can do stuff, and there's a big dollar difference between paralegal and legal. I mean, I always treated my attorneys like I treated my doctor. I mean, I tried to treat them very well. I paid them. I had conversations with them. I had, some attorneys I had for 10 or 15 years, and they were involved with multiple businesses. Actually, I took one time I got sued and we got through it and all over. I took the 3 attorneys plus their wives out to a very nice dinner, which they couldn't believe I was doing that. But I know that they determine what the bills are gonna be. So my experience is if you treat people right, they'll treat you right. So, anyway.
Who determines the bill, the wives?
Pardon?
The wives determine the bill?
Willis,
Please
you have a
clarify
question?
what's a non-compete agreement.
Pardon?
Please clarify what's a non-compete agreement.
What is a
A
non-compete?
non-compete, compete agreement or something you mentioned, what is that?
A non-compete agreement basically says an employee agrees that, they will not compete with you. They will not take
Oh,
any
okay.
information. They will not take customer lists, but there's all kinds of different ways that, if they're working for a competitor, as I say, I've been sued several times for it, and
Well, and.
Willis, you have a question over here.
Well, it's more of a comment to you. You can have those agreements with people, but then you have to enforce them, and that can be very expensive, and,
Exactly.
it might not be, it's more of,
Practicality is like,
well, yeah, because you can have the agreement, but then you have to pay a lawyer to enforce them, and it could turn into a long.
An employer may not employ you if you have one also.
Never actually benefit from, so it's probably better to structure the way that you do business in a way that you protect what you want to protect, and I understand the design. It'd be kind of hard to do, but maybe the process of how you designed it or manufactured
better
it.
to apply for patent.
the non-competes
But again, you still would need to enforce it.
in most states
It's
are,
up to you to enforce it, so depending on how much it costs to enforce, is it, a patent is, design patent maybe, but yeah, it would probably be the way that you do your business and how you interact with that contractor might be a better way to protect yourself than non-compete.
one of the things that I did, and what often comes up, if you've got employees, if you've got 5, 6, 8, 10 employees, you should have an employee manual that basically outlines all the rules of the business, vacation, sick leave. I actually even had one of them had a non-compete agreement, because it was part of the manual that they signed off that they got it. Now, my own personal experience with non-competes, I never sued anybody for non-compete. If someone went and did something I didn't think was right, I actually contacted them and had a little discussion as to, what they should and shouldn't do, and same way with their employee. If someone had an opportunity they thought was good, that was fine with me, but, I didn't want them taking customer lists, didn't want them taking clients. As long as they didn't do that, I really didn't care. All right, in business, I do suggest you have a mix of young and mature employees. The first business I had, I did it for 25 years, and I have to admit, after about 20 years, we had the basic same crew. I mean, we kept people, and they were really good people. But then we kind of, after you've done doing something for an extended period of time, you get into a certain rut, and you don't try new things. And found out the last few years we started hiring young people again. They were bringing in all kinds of different ideas, different approaches, what have you. So you get into larger groups, I suggest you have a mix of mature and young employees. Business needs to grow and change to survive. My computer business started in 1970. You can imagine when I sold out in 95, totally different business. We moved from one set of software, assembly language software, to IBM equipment. We had, when we were doing the selling the hardware itself, we were putting different manufacturers together. We had our own maintenance organization. We had 13 people spread around the country maintaining our systems. It got to a point of being extremely expensive, so then we ended up rewriting all our software, which was a major project, to run on IBM equipment. Then we got out of the hardware maintenance business. IBM maintained it, and that was one headache that was gone. And then then we started, when I left, we're starting to get into PCs and various things like that. I also suggest you have price increases. I found a lot of small businesses, they don't increase prices like they should. They usually start off too cheap to begin with because they're so excited that somebody's paying them money. But they need to at least charge what the competition is doing. And then I say, if possible, you compete on service, not price. My whole deal was, I want a service better than any other company in that industry, but I also want to be the highest, if not the highest, I want to be on the higher end of what people paid for. And good businesses will pay for good service. So competing on price, which if you're doing internet pricing, what have you, you end up, but it's kind of a dog eat dog kind of a thing. So two things. One, do have price increases. I suggest you have small ones periodically, so you don't have to jump 10, 15% at the end of 2 or 3 years, because that really grabs people. You do 1, 2, 3% every 6 months, once a year, keep it at the inflation rate. You got a good excuse to do so. It works a lot better than big jumps. So you compete on service, not price. If you have partners, and most of my businesses I had partners, if possible, you try to have partners with similar goals. At first business, for 25 years after we got rid of the doctor that was the president, 3 of us basically owned it, and we were all about the same age. We had kids that were about the same age. At one point, we were all putting kids through college, so we were all kind of moving the same direction. If you get into a partner, one that's looking to retire and another one that's young, you can sometimes run into conflicts. Or, just, you got similar goals, it makes it easy. And then, everybody know what OPM is?
Yeah.
Other people's money. I will tell you, one of the mistakes I made early was, in a lot of cases, my partners financed it ourselves with guaranteed bank debt. But today, there are all kinds of opportunities with angel investors. Sometimes you can find, depending on what industry you're in, a client that really loves you, loves your business, what have you, and you want to expand on to do things, you might be able to, give them some ownership. And if you get into ownership, 2 things you can do. One, you can just give them a percentage of the business, 2%, 5%. You want to keep controlling it for 2%, 5%, 6%. And they basically put the money in. The other way to do it is you can give a smaller percentage, but then they give it to you as a loan at a low interest rate, and the company pays it back over a period of time. So there's a couple of different ways in which you can use other people's money to try to expand and grow your business. But if you're going to expand and grow it, you're going to need some kind of funding. Additional thoughts and suggestions: cash is the key in a small business. So one of the big things you want to do is you want to obtain a line of credit. Basically, you go with the bank, you set up a line of credit maybe equal to a payroll, 2 payrolls. You have a contract with the bank that basically if you need some cash in a hurry, you just now you can do it online and just move money from your line of credit into your checking account. But you want to do it before you have problems. You want to do it when things are looking good. If you go to a bank when you got a problem, banks don't like to lend money to people that need money. They want to lend money to people that don't need it. So you want to go to a bank when you don't need money. Statement terms pretty standard nowadays. People do on receipt. When I got into business, a lot of cases people were doing 30 days. My accountant still does 30 days. I've told him he's crazy. He really should change his statements to do up on receipt. Bill on a timely basis. It's amazed me that some people don't bill when they should. Our medical transcription business, when I first got involved with those guys, they were billing once a month, and a Cleveland clinic was getting like a $25,000 charge once a month. And I look at my cash flow, because I handle all the books and everything. That's the other thing. He who writes the checks controls the business. So I always wrote checks once I learned that lesson. I said, well, let's bill them twice a month instead of, once a month. And the sales guy said, oh, the Cleveland Clinic will hate that. They won't like it at all. I said, well, I don't care. We'll tell them we're going to bill them twice a month. Went and told him, he came back and said, they really didn't like that because the bill was smaller and they didn't have to go as far up the executive plane to get it approved. Then we got involved with a medical transcription industry association, which we joined. We had to pay for it. And I attended one of their meetings, and they had people that were billing weekly. So, there are all kinds of techniques you can use to try to improve cash flow. Diligent follow-up on accounts receivable, it's amazing to me how, large invoices especially. I mean, some people say, well, I'm just too busy. Well, let me tell you, you'll busy yourself out of business. Particularly large invoices should be handled aggressively. And if you've got a client that doesn't pay, I mean, at some point, you really need to. We had the computer business. We ended up setting up where a monthly service fee, which in those days, nobody ever did. They bought a piece of equipment, hardware, software, and you just serviced it, they thought, forever. Well, we found out we couldn't do that, so we started to go to a monthly service fee, and we lost some clients. But we had good ongoing cash flow. And then one of the things we did is we also stuck in their software a little timer in there. And if we didn't get paid on time, their software had a problem. So anyway, there's things you can do with that. Budget, forecast cash flows of a problem development plan. We talked about the contract employee. You can see I already was going to talk about contract employees and the proper thing of doing it. Talked about FICA. You really want to pay FICA. And then, one of the questions I asked y'all, are there some additional things that you want to suggest to the group that you've done that you think?
One of the things that I think we didn't touch on was the social media aspect.
Oh, yeah. See, that's John.
Right.
I didn't have to get into social media, I have to admit. So that's the big
huge.
thing today.
Yes.
Websites and social media.
Your social media can work for you and it can work against you. Especially when we were talking about the employees, terminating employees, around Christmas time especially. You can guarantee there's going to be a post on your Google business page that's negative about your business. And when that happens, for us, we've experienced that many times. We have someone on board who manages our social media 100% of their time. So when we see something like that, we immediately respond back on the Google business page. We encourage all of our current clients, colleagues, then to write something on Google business page, write a favorable comment so it pushes it down to the bottom. You don't want the worst thing about your business at the top.
So you better set up a
False
Google
thing.
alert for your business.
Exactly. Every time
Do it
someone
now.
posts to your page, you get an alert.
Well,
And
the
gives you
thing
the
I-
option of responding.